Hi, I'm Deep.
I'm Jose.
And we're your token theater friends, two people who see way too much theater and love to talk about it with each other and with you and with other theater professionals. Who are we talking to, Jose?
Today we're talking to Ming Peiffer, the playwright of Usual Girls, a beautiful new play running through most of December, I think, at Roundabout, because it just keeps getting extended. Go,
Yay! Go Asian American playwrights. Hey, by the time you see this, it may have been extended again. Who knows?
Fingers crossed. And we're also talking to the star of Usual Girls, Midori Francis, who you might know from the stage if you saw The Wolves. And Midori's also done movies and television. Like she even has a part in Ocean's 8.
What?
Yep. She's
Okay.
awesome. Ming's awesome. So let's go check out the interview.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the elevator pitch of what the play is about?
Basically it follows Midori's character Kyeuong starting on a playground and sort of navigates through her life up until late 20s, once she's kind of an adult woman living in New York City, and just sort of charts all the moments where sort of her gender, sort of sexual politics have sort of morphed her life and kind of affected her, and it kind of points out the ways in which we're kind of socialized based on gender expectations, and how those things can be dangerous.
Midori, you thrive in female ensembles. I love The Wolves more than I can tell you.
We both love it.
Thank you.
And also, Usual Girls is mostly, there's boys, obviously, but it's mostly, you interact mostly with other female actors. Can you talk a little bit about what you get of, being surrounded by other incredible female actors like yourself, as opposed to working with like a bunch of boys?
Yeah. I wasn't actually a cast of all men. At one point I did Peter and the Starcatcher at Virginia Stage Company, and that was me and like 11 men stuck in Virginia.
Ooh.
And I will say, like, one of the questions that I always get about working with females is like, do you guys fight? What are the they just like an assumption that there's conflict, which is hilarious because I find the times I've worked with primarily women, it's like so easy in a way, and it's easy in an emotional way. It's easy in like an intellectual way. There's just like a certain kind of understanding that you have with each other, where you don't have to explain things, and there's just like a base level of understanding that's really lovely. And to answer your question, I found it to be awesome. I think comparing, it's natural to compare female plays because there aren't as many, but The Wolves and Usual Girls are so wildly different. But if we are going to compare, I think just in both plays, girls get to be weird and goofy and bold and not what you think of when you think of like feminine, and that's super fun.
Mm.
Yeah.
And well, it's also a very particular story about a girl, like a Korean American girl growing up in a predominantly white town, and there's this because I know for me as an Asian American woman, like, yes, there's a socialization, but there's also the extra layer of shame on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
And so how, like, growing up in this kind of culture, like, how have the both two of you navigated, like, these very disparate influences?
Not super well.
Yeah.
I think, maybe better now, creating art about it. But, I think Midori and I talk a lot about, especially being Asian American, you're not really seen at all in society, and you're not even seen as American often. You're sort of the perpetual foreigner. And so, in terms of diversity and, because I've never really seen myself reflected, I think it's even doubly damaging because I was constantly having these experiences where I was being otherized for my race, but then not kind of seeing that explored at all. And so, in the play, there are a lot of times, where there are very audible gasps in the audience of, times when race does come up. And it's interesting because, for us, we're kind of like, oh yeah, but
something that happened.
Just a day in life.
And a lot of people are shocked, and some people ask, oh, did that really happen, or was that sort of just a way to dramatically, dramaturgically just weave race into it? And I'm like, no, that happened to me in kindergarten, where I was called a racial slur for the first time.
And we're so not alone. And I think that's like one of the most important things about this is, and shame is a beautiful word. And one that is, I'm sure, particular to all people of color, but I think Asian people in particular in this country have been branded like a model minority. And in that sense, I think culturally the pressure is put upon us not to complain and to be grateful. And, when you're part of a culture that has been consistently laughed at, laughed at in the media, in theater, or silenced or not taken seriously as a human being, of course there's shame. You're walking around with it. It's in your blood. And so meeting Ming was for me just like a huge moment in my life because I met somebody else who was not afraid to talk about it and made me feel less crazy for having these experiences. And the most moving thing for me is having the opportunity to put it on stage and seeing Asian people after the show come up to us and just kind of let out this sigh of thank you, and you're not alone. And so sometimes it's important to remember that even if people aren't outwardly complaining about it every day, or if we haven't yet come together in a strong movement, it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
And
I think what you're saying about the model minority thing is really linked to the extra layer of shame, because you're expected to not have anything to complain about. So when you do feel upset about something or feel wronged by something, you then feel doubly guilty about feeling bad, because you do look at other minorities who do have, a much more troubling and traumatic history with America, but that doesn't mean that we haven't had our own share of struggles as well.
In a lot of ways, I think the mocking of a person, the mocking, the silencing, the laughing at, in a lot of ways is the death of oneself. And it might not be a physical death, but to me, it's a death. It's a death of personality. It's a death of the ability to be funny on one's own, not being just laughed at. The ability to have a strong point of view and opinion, which I think some people, that's what makes Ming so unique. So I think representation in this way is so vital.
And the play is a lot about, there's this moment in the play where Midori's character, Kyeuong, shaves her pussy for the first time.
Yeah.
and when I was watching it made me think, well, the play talks about, when did we learn this is a thing we're supposed to do? And then it made me think, wait, when did I learn when that was a thing that we should all be doing? Working on this project, what have you discovered about socialization or female socialization?
Well, recently in the news, there was this big headline because there was going to be the first ever razor commercial that actually featured a female's body with hair. Did you see this? Yeah, so it's the first time in the history of selling female razors, because if you think about it, think about those commercials, it's all smooth legs, they're shaving already hairless armpits, and it makes no sense. So for the first time ever in 2018, there's going to be a new advertisement where it actually features female hair. So to go to that question of where do we learn these things, it's in everything. It's in the media. It's the fact that we're not even seeing females' bodies in their, normal human state, which is, having hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or having periods. We're still not we're using blue liquid to signify menstrual blood.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Thinking about the myths and the plain lies that we're told when we're growing up about how sex and our bodies work, what's the maybe one thing that you learned as an adult or growing up that was a complete lie and bullshit, and then you want to let every child out there know this is a lie?
I didn't know how you get pregnant. I mean, which is like very appropriate for our show because there's literally a line. It's like get pregnant. But I mean, I almost, it's like as if I was born in the 1930s. But I remember when I got my period young, and my mom was just like, well, now you can get pregnant. And I really had no idea because I was so little. I mean, I knew what sex was, but I didn't connect the dots. And so I walked around for a year thinking, like, if I touch someone, I could get pregnant. I truly had no idea. And I just, now I know, which is great. I'm aware now. Thank you, Ming. I learned that in 2016. But I mean, that to me is just so absurd. And for me, if I can, like, when I have a daughter, I will. The shame about menstruating is so bizarre and absurd. It makes no sense. And I would love to, help demystify that. And it's just crazy. Yeah.
I recently learned, I guess not that, but like that blue balls is not actually a thing. But I think part of that, the reason that was such, at least when I was growing up, was something that was very much in the ether was because like so much of talk around sex is surrounded around male pleasure. And whereas female pleasure is never really talked about, or, just the idea of women faking orgasms and things like that.
Or that women masturbate.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. And so, like, I think the reason I bring that up, even though it's like a male anatomy thing, is just, I think I didn't even have, like, I think fake things to go off. I just had no information at all. It wasn't even, like, myths surrounding my body. It was just sort of no information at all. Like, recently, I've watched both the Ali Wong specials, which are amazing. But, like, I've learned so much about pregnancy from those stand-up specials. Yes. I did not learn that. I did not learn...
It really is.
I'm 30 years old. Like, I didn't know that about pregnancy, about something that my body is capable of doing, you know what I mean? Until this age. And that's kind of scary that it takes, it's awesome that we have an artist that's willing, that's like going up there to talk about that.
Come to our play.
Yeah, come to our play.
I love
you. But yeah, like that's kind of crazy. I think we just haven't really talked about the female body in a way and shown it in its true, humanity. That's why I think all these, these body positive movements, these things where, women not shaving, I think it's awesome because for the first time or not for the first time, I shouldn't say that. There have been these waves throughout history, but why we're kind of seeming to pendulum swing back to people kind of really rebelling or really embracing femininity, but in this empowered way where it's like, oh, this is my choice to look like this or dress this way.
And that goes back to the socialization question, about like where do these things come from? I think a big part of this whole play is like, who knows? Like, right? They just come from somewhere, and then it's like exploring
white hetero patriarchy.
Yeah, but what
cisgendered white hetero patriarchy.
So I think the idea is once you become aware that of all the ways in which you don't have a choice, I think you have to learn that first, right? You have to educate yourself in all the ways that you were ever taught to dress or taught to think about yourself. And then once you have that information, you can make whatever choice you want. You can put on heels and wear lipstick. But it's about understanding what your choices have been and the limitations of those, and then making new choices.
Can you talk about the very first time that you saw yourself represented in the media, whether it was a movie, a television show, or book, or a play or musical?
Yeah. My beginning ones were mostly bad. It would be like, I remember being at like sleepovers and stuff and then like seeing a movie. It was actually that Christmas Story movie. We like, is it Christmas Story? The one with the big shoe thing? Yeah. Yeah, and then there was these sort of like Chinese servers at a restaurant singing Deck the Halls with like a very harsh accent. And I remember being with my friends and family feeling very embarrassed about that. So a lot of my first ones are really negative. But then I remember when Charlie's Angels came out, seeing Lucy Liu. And that was like somebody who was kick-ass, strong, funny, attractive. And that was like so cool for me. I just felt like, oh, I have somebody to like identify with. Yeah.
I think mine was probably like Christy Yamaguchi and Michelle Kwan, just the figure skaters, because I was like a big athlete. I didn't do figure skating, which is, a certain thing, but just seeing people in the U.S. Olympics and being representing America specifically in such a high-profile, treasured kind of ritual of ours as Americans was I think a big one for me, and my mom and I would watch that. So
Aww.
it was like something we did together. Yeah.
Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for having us.
So Jose, if you could tell your teenage self one thing, what would it be?
Grow up fast. Just being a teenager sucks. And I was a teenage boy. I can't imagine what it's like to be a teenage girl. Like, but yeah, I don't know why people keep like romanticizing adolescence. It's horrible.
It
Isn't
really
it?
is, yes.
Yeah.
Especially if you have anything resembling ambition and a personality. You just go out of place all the time.
It's just horrible. But I mean, I'm glad plays like Usual Girls exist because they're great. And they keep reminding us of how lucky we are to be adults now.
Yeah, and you know, take your teenagers, tell them it's not going to be too bad. It gets better.
It does. It does get better.
Thank you for watching us. Check out Usual Girls. It's playing until, we hope, for a very long time. Yeah, and if you want to hear more of us in your ears, you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and wherever you get podcasts. We review theater, and this week we're going to be reviewing King Kong, who's on the loose on Broadway. What?
No, that's really just terrifying. Very terrifying.
So check out the podcast, subscribe to us on YouTube. You click on that little bell to get more notifications whenever we post videos. Anything else to say to the people?
Remember, we're going to be at Broadway Con the weekend of January 11th, 2019. So get your tickets if you don't have them. I love Broadway Con, and we're going to be there. We're going to have guests, we're going to have games, we're going to have giveaways. It's going to be
fun outfits.
It's going to be the best. So go.
Yes. Well, thanks for watching our show, and remember, theater's more fun when you take your friends. Bye.